You get to start with him, AD.
Okay. Where the young fella at tonight, man? Where you are, your son?
Both of them?
Yeah, both of them.
One of them is with my girl.
There you go.
And my oldest is at home, hopefully, doing what he's
supposed to do.
Yeah, I have two of them, man.
There you go.
14 and 5.
Ooh-wee. Teenage boy, it's about to get awkward if it hasn't already, huh? Man. I'm sitting here talking like I got experience. I don't know nothing about that.
But you're right, man. It's, he's trying to stick his chest out and exert himself as the alpha. And I'm like, nah, bro, that's not how that works. No, there's only one in here. So.
It's only one in here. It's like, man, can you remember a time whenever you got to that point as a teenager where it's like, man, you know what? I think, well, maybe you start sizing up dad, like, man, I don't think he won't none no more. You know what I mean?
It was me and my mom for a while.
Okay.
And, man, she may have seen, and she's a lovely lady.
Right.
But moms don't play that, man.
She don't mess around. It ain't sweet.
Nah, it ain't sweet. So, I was terrified of my mom probably till I was in my early 20s. So every now and then I would kind of, or when I walk off, I may mumble something, but I don't think I ever crossed her like that. Maybe once, probably when I was got my first little piece and I was feeling like a man and whatever. But
right.
Other than that, nah, because I knew I didn't want no parts
of that. He knew where the line was.
I didn't want no parts of that at all.
Now, how many of y'all was it? You got any siblings when you grew up?
Yeah, well, I had a younger brother. He passed away when I was 15. Then I have an older brother. I'm 39, so he's got to be 43, 44.
There you go.
So, yeah, it was us. He was in and out doing his thing.
Right. So. All boys, though, huh?
Oh, yeah, all boys. That's kind of how our family was, though. We had a lot of young boys in our family, but, the men were kind of absent, but the women stepped up, like, in a major way, man. Like, that's who we grew up admiring, looking up to.
Kept that village going, huh?
Oh, yeah. They had to. And like I said, they all had boys, so.
That's right. You kind of had to do it like that.
Yeah, they had to take care of business, man, and they held it down. They kept the family together, honestly,
So out of three of you, that puts you right in the middle, huh?
I am the middle.
Okay, so is it true what they say about the middle child, man? How they always sort of got that edge, that little chip on the shoulder because they feel like they get less than the baby, and for sure less than the golden child who was first.
I think I had that to a degree.
Right.
Like you said, the first one is just like, whatever. He probably felt like I got babied and stuff. Then once my younger brother came along, it was an adjustment, I think, but me and him had a real close relationship. So I don't know if it was as bad as a lot of middle kids have it, but, I think I definitely had my share of issues with it, but I don't think it was nothing major or too serious like that. Major. So, nah, not at all.
Well, now, you did say the age difference between you and your older brother. That's what we talking about 4-5 years?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah? So y'all in a sense grew up together. Man,
yeah.
Did you ever have to hold your own, man? That boy trying to punk you, man? You had to let him know what, hey, I ain't going for it.
And my brother is tall, so
yeah.
I'm 6 foot, and he's probably 6'3", 6'4", and yeah, he definitely had that. I'm big brother type thing, but
right.
It wasn't. Yeah. We've had our fair share of fights. I'll put it that way.
Right.
We had our fair share of physical altercations and stuff like that, but I don't think it really got too out of hand. No, it was just a typical, I'm big brother, you little brother. He wasn't really into sports. I was, so. Right. I just think he just kind of had to try to exert his dominance in some fashion or the other. So it's like, okay, well, I ain't in sports. He is. So
yeah,
I'm just trying to punk on him. And my mentality was like, nah, bro, it's not happening. Exactly. So, but that's my big bro. I love him to death, man. We're extremely close. So, but yeah, we definitely bumped heads a lot. My mom definitely had to pull us apart a lot. Step pops had to pull us apart a lot.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. I actually love that type of stuff because, to some folks that may be abnormal, but to me that's very normal. And then to some degree, I'm pretty sure it was necessary.
Yeah, it helps build that sort of camaraderie. You know what I'm saying? I think older siblings are always going to try to test their younger siblings just to kind of see where your mettle is at, so to speak.
Early on, too.
Yes, and that's where a lot of it happened. It hasn't happened so much as we have gotten into our adult years, or even when we got into our older teen years, but definitely when we were young. But yeah, like you said, man, I think it's a necessary. I don't know if it's like a rite of passage type thing. I don't know. I just think it just happens. You know what I'm saying? I don't think it's a bad thing at all. I think it's completely normal. You know, you want to play the game. He wants to play this game. He don't want you playing with him. And, you know, at that time, like now, 2 game systems are common in a household. But back then, it was like, hey, y'all have one. Y'all better share it.
Work it out.
So he like, well, I'm the big brother. I want to play this. Well, no, I don't want to play that. So
and
a lot of our fights with stuff
last
like
time.
Right. Or well, you will play when I get done. Like, man, you will be playing for 6-7 hours. So
that's facts there.
Right.
You get lost in the whole thing.
Exactly. So it was a lot of just petty stuff like that, man. It wasn't. People gotta let that stuff, you know. You gotta let that stuff happen, man. I think it's important to growing up. I think it's key to growing up. He wouldn't let anybody mess with me though, outside of him. So
that's the key. That's the key. You sort of, it's like, I can do whatever to this kid, but you better not say nothing.
Yeah, you can't touch me. Exactly. And that's how I felt about him. You know, he may have put me in a full Nelson an hour earlier and made me feel like I was dying, but we got out in the streets and, you know, we went to another neighborhood to play some football or something, and some other guys was like talking reckless. Yeah. Like, nah, that's my big bro, you know. We in this together. You know, ain't nothing gonna happen to him that don't happen to me. So we're in this together. And that's how we grew up though, because if I would have came home and something happened to me and my brother didn't do nothing about it, he knew he had to answer to moms. And I knew I had the same thing. So we rather get beat up in the streets than come home and get beat up. That's just kind of what it was. So
I love that. I love that, man.
Absolutely.
And you know, you mentioned a while ago about having a younger brother who passed when you were 15 years old, right? Mm-hmm. Man, talk about y'all's relationship, because I heard you say that y'all are pretty tight. You know, as far into that as you feel comfortable going, but you know, that's definitely not something that I knew about.
Oh yeah, it's no problem, man. Yeah, my younger brother, his name was Lee. He was named after his dad, man. We were extremely close. He was born with a lot of medical issues, you know what I'm saying? Anyway, I think when he was born, they gave him like 9 weeks to live. He ended up living to like 9 or 10. We were extremely close. He was handicapped, so he couldn't walk or anything. Nothing was wrong with him mentally.
Oh, he was sharp up top.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Okay. You know, he could hold a conversation. If you were just talking to him over the phone, you wouldn't even know that he had disabilities. You know what I'm saying? All his disabilities were physical, so naturally, I'm big brother. I go into protection mode, you know what I'm saying? Because especially back then where bullying wasn't put to the forefront like it is now and kind of, you know, much maligned as it is now. It wasn't really like that then. So kids, it was kind of normal for kids to make fun of you and talk about you and stuff. So I had a real protective spirit over him, man. And, you know, we pretty much, we grew up together. You know, moms worked. And at the time she was single. Right. So, and like I said, big bro, he was in and out of the house a lot. So me and my little brother, you know, I practically raised him. He had a lot of heart issues. I remember being like 7 to 8 years old, giving my younger brother like heart medicine, like 3 or 4 different heart medicines. You know what I'm saying? They were essential to him living. Like, this is the type of responsibility that I had as a young kid. But I never looked at it like that, because I was just like, I gotta help moms. You know what I'm saying? She's working 2 jobs. She's trying to look out for us. So
did she ever let you know the what exactly you were doing, other than just, hey, get this to your brother at such and such time?
Oh yeah,
she
like
kept it all the way real
I knew. Yeah, moms always kept it real with me. I knew the ramifications of if I forgot to give it to him or anything like that. So. And she knew I was young, so she would call me and say, hey, you know, did you give your brother his meds and stuff like that? Like, yeah, mom, I got it. I'm on top of it. You know what I'm saying? So she always, you know, kind of kept that. She knew that he is a kid, and sometimes kids can get sidetracked. So she always made sure that I was, you know, pretty punctual with that. So, but yeah, that was my guy, man. We were extremely close. He loved me to death. He was one of my biggest fans when I first started playing ball and all of that. So, yeah.
Ain't nothing like support, man. I'm always a sucker for siblings being tight, man. I love hearing that, because, you know, we scrap, we do whatever we do. But when it's all said and done, I know it's a cliche statement, but you really don't have anybody else.
That's true.
We got friends, but they come and go. But,
right.
You know, your siblings, your brother, your sister, they there forever.
And see, my mom, she always like emphasized that with us. Like, look, man, if something happens to me, this is what y'all got. This circle right here, y'all got to keep that tight. Y'all got to look out for each other. So me and my older brother, even though he was, like I said, in and out of the house, man, he was just as protective of him as I was, you know what I'm saying? And if anything happened to him when he was in, because he had several hospital visits, he had several open heart surgeries. So, you know, he would always, hey, you know, pick up the phone. Hey, is Lily okay? You know what I'm saying? Things like that. I'm like, yeah, he good. You know what I'm saying? He's recovering and things like that. So we always had that kind of tightness about us as brothers, you know, which came natural, really. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, mom preached that. But even if she hadn't, I think we still would have had it just because we kind of knew. Like, that's just how it's supposed to be. You know, you close ranks and galvanize and look out for each other. So,
bringing it full circle, now you a father. You got 2 sons, man. You're telling me there's a pretty significant age gap between them, right? Your oldest is 14, and your baby boy is 5, right?
Right.
How's that been? How's their relationship before we go any further? They all right?
It's actually a lot like my relationship with my younger brother was. He's my youngest son, Cameron. He's crazy about his older brother. His older brother is named after me. His name is DeAngelo Jr. We call him DJ. Cam is crazy about him. A lot of people see videos that I post on Facebook, and it's a lot of his brother teaching him like all these new I don't know, you know, these new dances and stuff.
Hot, right?
Yeah, you know, and his brother teaches him how to, you know, because he has disabilities as well. So his brother has taught him how to shoot a basketball and throw a football. Like, it's really something to see, man. It's amazing. It's a blessing to see how close they are. It reminds me a lot of me and my younger brother. So absolutely, I love the bond they have, man. It's crazy. I could sit there and watch them all day. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, that's your entertainment, huh?
Oh yeah, and it takes me back. You know, a lot of people say because I'm old, I get nostalgic all the time and stuff like that. But
I'm guilty of that too, though. I ain't lying.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, as you get up in age, you kind of start to remember the good old days, so to speak. But yeah, man, I love seeing how they are with each other. I love seeing how he looks out for his younger brother, and his younger brother's crazy about him too. You know, if I stop and get something, he's like, "Dad, are you gonna get DJ something?" I'm like,
"Hey, man,
like, why you checking my pockets?" You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, trust me, I got you. Because if I don't, he gonna eat me out of house and home anyway. So,
that's a fact.
Yeah.
Listen,
I love it, man.
Have you tried to tailor your parenting to what you had when you were growing up? You know, or is it much different and more different than what you thought it would be now that you're a parent? Because times are different.
Absolutely.
And I'm not necessarily sure if the kids changed, but the times certainly have.
I think everything has changed. Like you said, the times have changed. I think the kids have changed just because of the environments have changed and, you know, things they have access to.
Yeah,
so, you know, they're a lot further ahead as far as development than I am. And when I say development, I don't necessarily mean maturity, but just the things that they can see in the world. You know what I'm saying? If that makes sense. But I don't know if I kind of just, because there's no blueprint to it, there's no instructions to it, man, and you're gonna make mistakes, and I've made a ton of them, trust me. But I've always just tried to do it my way. You know, I do get advice from my mom and from my dad. And, you know, I just tell people that, look, the people that I've been there, they can give you their input, but you got to put your little twist on it. You know what I'm saying? Right. You got to figure out a way to kind of incorporate the things that you feel are valuable that they gave you, and you have to try to incorporate into how you are. So that's kind of how I try to parent, man. You know, I kind of do it my way. Like I said, man, I talk to my mom a lot, and I get her input a lot, and then I'll go home and I'll think about it. I'll pray on it, and then I just try to figure it out and hope for the best. That's really all you can do. Because you know, people always try to say, oh, well, you know, when you a parent is this. And I'm just like, man, you got to understand that you're not your kid's main influence. You know, it's tough for people to accept that, but there's a lot of generational gaps there. You know what I'm saying? There's a lack of relatability there, so to speak. They are influenced heavily by their peers. So you just have to instill the right things in them and hope that they can apply those things. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes you got to live with the mistakes that they make. And, You know, I don't know if you ever watched the Last Chance You.
Oh yeah, you talking about the whole series or the basketball one?
The basketball one.
Absolutely, man. Couldn't get enough of it.
I remember one of the coaches said something that was so profound to me, man, and it really stood out. He said, sometimes you got to love them even when they don't deserve it. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, wow, because this sometimes I look at my son like, whoa,
you
man.
hard to love right now.
Yeah, like, but yeah, you know, parenting has definitely been the most fulfilling experience I've had, but it's definitely been the most trying one. So I just say, man, parent the best way you can. Take advice from older people, from your parents, and, you know, people that you looked up to. But at the end of the day, you know your kids. You gotta apply things how you see fit, and you gotta figure out which way works for you. Mm-hmm. So,
and to that point right there, I remember my dad told me one time. He said, "Listen, we raised y'all to let you go. You know, and we just hope that some of what we try to give you will stick with you. And hopefully, you're going to make mistakes, but hopefully you don't make one of them that's too big to come back from. And you can use your imagination to figure out what type of mistake you're talking about."
Exactly.
And then when you talk about influences, I remember when I got my first head coaching gig at Piedmont High School. Good friend of mine, he was the wrestling coach, still the wrestling coach there. His name is Eric Ford. And he said, man, coach, for these kids, their coaches are top 3 most influential people in their lives. Mm-hmm. So I know that we may be sitting at least one spot above the parents a lot of times, man. It's a ton of responsibility that comes with that too.
Yeah. You wear a lot of different hats as a coach. I always talk to my mom and I tell her, like, man, some days I gotta be disciplinarian. Mm-hmm. Some days I gotta be psychologist. Sometimes I gotta be psychiatrist. Some days I gotta be, you know, the pseudo dad, you know, in their life. Sometimes you got to be the friend. Yeah. You know, these kids, they, you know, when you take them in, man, they talk to you about a lot of things that they probably don't talk to their parents about.
That's fact.
So, you know, I got a kid on my team right now, man. I hope you don't mind me saying his name, but a kid named Marcel Perry from Southeast, man. I love him to death.
Right.
We've had some strenuous times, and there's been times where other parents on my team just like, man, why don't you get rid of him? Yeah. I'm just like, man, you don't know the bond that I had with him, you know? And I knew his dad when I was young. So his dad was real cool with me. So it's like now his dad has passed away and Marcel was fairly young when it happened.
Yeah, man.
So it's like now I feel like, not that I'm trying to be his dad or anything, but I'm just trying to be that influence in his life. Cause I can tell at times he's hurting a lot and he needs that guidance. And me and him have talked about everything like far, you know, that exceed basketball. So, yeah, man, you definitely are very influential in these kids' life, man. And a lot of times they come to you when it's time to make the important decisions in his life, not just even basketball, like not just what school I should go to, but man, coach, you know, what should I do as far as my major? Or, you know, man, me and moms, we kind of bumping heads right now. You know, I've even had to give relationship advice. I'm like, man, I'm almost 40. I don't really know how to give relationship advice to an 18-year-old or 17-year-old.
Big
but
difference.
Yeah, I mean, I'll do the best that I can, but you know, just talking to them about life, decisions. Like you said, don't make a decision that I can't come help you get out of. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't make a decision that you can't come back from. So I'm trying to put things in you to where when those things come, you have the critical thinking skills to be like, nah, I probably don't need to take part in that. So man, just, yeah, these kids really kind of cling to their coaches. I'm a firm believer in that, man. Like I said, sometimes like you said, you may be a step ahead of the parents just because, you know, a lot of times, man, you'll spend more time with these kids than you will your own families, really. You know, especially, I mean, you're a high school coach, you know, man, once the season starts, and especially if you teach, you know, they come by your office throughout the day and you're talking to them, then, you know, 2 or 3 hours after school for practice. And, you know, if you got to take kids home, that's another, you know, 15, 20, 30 minutes in the car with them. So you look up.
Yeah. A couple times I had a kid with me all day, one of my players. I'm like, oh, I picked you up at 8:30 this morning. It's 4:30. Have you eaten? No. You hungry? And then All right, let's go eat something to eat, man.
I mean, it's easy for you to look up and you spent 12 hours of your day around or with these kids.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, man, the coaches play a huge role. And that's why I love what I do, man. I wouldn't change it. I love the impact that we can have, man. You know, there's a meme going around on Facebook that said, you know, a coach can impact more lives than, you know, whatever. I can't remember exactly what it says, but I think that's very, very true. You know what I'm saying? And I have kids that I coached years ago that have families and stuff. Now, man, I've been invited to weddings, baby showers, the birth of their child. That's what it's about.
Heck yeah.
You know, I love winning. You know, anybody that follows me on Twitter know I've gotten into it with a lot of people about winning and losing, especially in AAU. I love to win. Yeah, you know, and I'm not, you know, I don't back down off of that statement. I don't think if you're a competitor, you don't want to lose.
No.
So we compete to win, but at the end of the day, when the basketball stuff settles and it's all over and done with, what have you given this kid that will make him come back? You know, and that's really what I love about it, because I didn't have that as a kid. You know, my coaches, once basketball was over, man, they like not to even talk to you. You like not to even see them. So, you know, and no knock against none of my coaches. You know, I played at Southeast High School, legendary Coach Brewer, man, and you know,
alumni of the pod, old Brew crew.
Yeah, you know, and Coach Brewer was a good dude. He just, and I don't know, maybe things have changed now, but back then that just really wasn't his thing. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't until I got to college and my college coach, you know, he would have his kids around. And I remember the Ohio State and Florida football championship. I don't know, it might have been like 2006, 2007, something like that. Right. And he invited all of us over to his house. And I was sitting there like, man, this white man crazy. He got all these black kids in his house.
Yeah.
You know, he had a pond in the backyard. I was like, whoa.
It was different from what you had seen before. Like, yo.
And I remember one time, like, I had lost a book for a class. And I was like, man, coach, I don't know how I'm going to pass this class. And he was just like, man, I'll buy the book. And I'm looking like, what? You know what I'm saying? Like, he showed me not only the type of coach that I wanted to be, but the type of man that I wanted to be for my players. Mm-hmm. So that's what I try to do now with all my kids. You know, like you said, hey, have you eaten? You know, is everything all right? How are you feeling mentally right now? How are you feeling emotionally right now? Is everything good? Do you need anything? You know,
those are important questions, because we both coach boys, and you know how reserved we can be about that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah.
Either it's not even a thought, because you know, kids, this is their favorite answer. Which means they ain't thought about it, or we have thought about it, but we shoving that way down there. You know, when you can get them to pull back that curtain a little bit, I think that means something. And off to, you know, I've got to circle back to something you said a couple moments ago. Another reason why we not so quick to just cut a kid loose, even if he is being a pain in the butt. It's like, I had a coach tell me one time, I was like, man, you don't know what circumstances you get ready to turn him over to if you cut him loose.
Absolutely.
You know, we don't know a lot of times we do know what the alternative is, and it ain't good. Mm-hmm. And now they always need us and what we provide more than we need them. We got to keep that going, even when they.
I agree with that.
It's close. I'm sick of this kid, but they need it.
Cool. And it's crazy, coach, because I've lost kids because I wouldn't get rid of him, and you know, the parents didn't understand the dynamic that me and him have, and I'm just like, man, you. And he's not that he comes from a bad household or anything. He's dealing with a lot. You know, he lost his dad that he was really close with. Said, man, you don't understand. These kids are out here looking for guidance, man. And it's so easy for somebody on the outside looking in to say, just get rid of them. Well, then what?
Yeah.
Where is he going to go? What is he going to do? Most importantly, who is he going to cling to now? Is it going to be a negative influence? And now I look up a couple of months later and he's on the news for something. And I'm just like, man, I should have been there. Absolutely. You know, I've had players that have gotten in trouble and are now, you know, in the penal system and stuff like that. So I just try to tell them that, man, I don't expect you to understand, but if I'm the coach of this team, you got to trust that I'm not going to make decisions that are detrimental to this team or detrimental to these kids.
Yeah, if they win, you win.
Exactly.
And you just said you don't want to lose. So well, I'm going to tell you something that ain't going to help you.
Man, I'm the biggest competitor ever, man. I don't want to lose at all.
Not no time.
There's no acceptable time to lose to me. You know, I know people say, and I know this is kind of off topic, but people always talk about how AAU winning doesn't matter and it's about getting kids in the man, I have the biggest problem with that. I don't know about any other AAU culture. Like, yeah, this is about getting kids scholarships and, you know, creating memories and things of that nature. But
want them to be a better version of themselves when they go back to their high schools. Always.
Absolutely. I don't drive 300 miles to get my ass kicked.
Nah,
plain and simple.
Nah.
I don't do that. I'm not spending money to do that. I want to win. You know what I'm saying? Winning is important. I think winning is important because it translates to life. You know, you're going to be competing in every aspect of life, in my opinion.
Yeah.
In my workplace, I'm trying to get promotions. Mm-hmm. I'm competing against other people that want those. Even if we can just take it to, you know, a real adolescent level and say, you know, you want the pretty girl in school.
Hello.
A lot of other dudes do as well.
Come on now.
You know, we're competing in the classroom. If you have a 93, I want a 96. You know what I'm saying? Like, and there are studies that show that people who are successful in their field of play become successful in life. Yeah. You know, their sport of choice, if they are successful in that, they become successful adults because they learn the value of competing. And not competing in a negative sense where you're going to do anything to win, like cheating and try to cut corners.
Got to keep some integrity.
Right, exactly. So when I hear people say winning doesn't matter in AAU, I'm just like, what are we teaching these kids?
Yeah.
You know, we're like, losing now becomes a mindset. It's not just a verb anymore.
Right.
They become used to, well, you know, I'm not even going to apply for that because I'm not going to get it.
Yeah.
You know, maybe I'm thinking too much into it, but that's just kind of how my mind works. I look at the long-term effects.
I agree with that. It's like, because listen, at some point, when does the winning process start to where you actually believe that it's possible? Because, you know, if they can't see it, they can't be it. And I heard one of my other coaching buddies say, you can't do nothing you don't believe in.
Mm-hmm.
But, I got to see it to know that I can get it. You know, I can remember this past season, we in a funk, man. We 4-17 this past season at Central. Mm-hmm. We won our first 2 games in December 2020. The next 2 wins we didn't get until February during the playoff weeks. First round of the play, well, not first round, but the first week of the playoff. Okay. So that was a long season in between that.
Yeah.
So you don't think they got tired of listening to my concession speeches? And I know they look at me like, Coach, I hear you, but I'm seeing something different.
Yeah.
So at some point we had to break through.
Yes, success matters, man. It matters for the psyche. I don't think people realize that. And that's what I preach to my players. We're not going to apologize for winning or wanting to win.
That's right.
I'm not taking you to go play against some of the best players in the country just so you can lose. That's not what I'm going to do. Yeah, we want to get you exposure and stuff like that. Why can't we do all of those things? And I think that's what a lot of AAU coaches and it usually comes from programs or guys who lose. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's just be real. It's like, okay, well, your program loses. So, yeah, you look at other things. But to me, why can't we get these kids exposure? Why can't we develop them? Why can't we take them to top-notch tournaments that have top-notch competition? Why can't we develop them as young men while winning at the same time? Like, why do we have to be in a certain lane? Why can't we cover all the lanes?
That's right.
That's how I look at it. And people think I'm crazy and I have this warped view of AAU. I'm just like, nah, man. I don't know what y'all on, but
we different. But
yeah, you know, we trying to be successful over here, and it matters. There hasn't been any kid that I've tried to recruit AAU while the first words out their mouth, coach, is, "How did y'all do last year?"
Yeah,
that's what they want to know. You know what I'm saying? Because it matters to these kids. Because if you playing on a terrible team, your homeboys making fun of you.
That's a fact.
Like, oh man, they trash, man. They always mention. I hear it all the time when I'm, you know, when they're talking about other programs and I'm in the gym and I'm just, you know, ear hustling these kids' conversation. I hear them say that, oh man, you play for such and such. They been garbage since they came into existence.
Ain't nothing diplomatic about it. It's like either you nice or you trash. That's
what I'm saying. It matters. So when I go talk to a kid and I can say, well, you know, even if I can't remember our exact record, I can say, hey man, we had a really successful summer last summer as far as on the win-loss side. And we helped get this kid into this school, this kid into like they want to encompass all of that. And that's what I try to teach people, man. There's nothing wrong at all with wanting to win. It doesn't just have to be on the high school level or the college level, man. We can win in AAU too. And if you didn't want to win, why are you out here trying to get the best players that you can get? Why not just take the first 10 that walk through your door? Yeah. Don't even bother to have a tryout. Let's just do it that. If winning doesn't matter. And it's coming from programs. Yeah, it's coming from programs that I see post their trials. I'm like, well, I thought winning didn't matter. If it's just about developing kids, hey, the first 10 that come through the door, that's who's on the team. We're going to skill you up, develop you, and then we'll go play. There's a reason why you're trying to get the best players you can get. And it's not to inflame an ego or anything like that. We're just competitors. We want to win. I'm investing my time. I got sweat equity in this. I hate driving home 6, 7, 8 hours, man, after you got, your butt kicked all weekend. Yeah.
It's already a long drive. On top of that, at least let it be celebratory.
Exactly. I hate those somber, drive homes.
Everybody earphones in, everybody sleep.
Yeah.
And when did you start coaching though, man? And when did you always know that this was something you wanted to do? That's the main question.
That's a good question. I never thought about coaching until, like I said, till I got to college. Mm-hmm. And but I always saw the game differently as a player. I was never the most athletic. I couldn't jump very high. I couldn't run very fast. So the game was always more cerebral to me anyway than it was physical. So I always saw the game differently. When I watched film, my film study was different. I never paid attention to what I did. I always paid attention to who I was guarding, who came off the bench for him, what his tendencies were. So I guess maybe subconsciously that was always there, but it was never anything that I really had given significant thought to until I was in college in my junior year. And we're sitting there and we're watching film on the team, man. And coaches asking us questions and stuff. And, people are just kind of spitballing things, trying to just saying stuff. I'm just like, man, none of that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? Well, they must be seeing something different than what I am. Right. So I say my piece and my coach is looking, my college coach was Kelly Archer, man. I love him to death. We still talk to this day. He said, DeAngelo, you're going to be a coach one day. I'm like, hell no. No. I got to coach bad kids like us? No, I'm not doing that. And he said.
You shot that right down.
Yeah. He said, mark my words, you're going to be a coach. And, it was something I went home and I thought about. And I said, I'm probably not going to make a paycheck from playing basketball. So I don't want to be a referee.
I still don't have that appetite, man. Yeah. Keep telling me I'm evolved to it, but I guess I'm still waiting on it.
Bro, you don't want to be an official. Trust me. That's they get, man. I'm hard on them, man. I couldn't imagine having to deal with a coach like me. But so I said it would be a way for me to, stay in the game. I love teaching. I've always loved kids, so it's like maybe. So college is over and kind of bouncing around trying to figure out what I want to do. And a guy named one of my good coaching friends now that really got me involved in the AAU. He used to be heavily involved in it, not so much anymore, but his name was Johnny Bonds. And he called me one day and he said, hey, man, I got this team, man. I got a couple of my cousins and they got a couple of their homeboys, man. And I think you should come coach. I said, man, I don't know about that, bro. You know what I'm saying? He's like, bro, just come on.
Just totally out of left field.
Yeah. And he's always, we would always talk to each other and we would always talk ball and stuff. He was my point guard in high school.
Okay.
So we would always talk ball. And, he realized I knew what I was talking about. So he was like, man, come on, just give it a shot. And, man, the first day I sat on that sideline, man, I loved it. And I knew right then, like, this is it. Like, this is my passion. This is my calling. I love the chess match of it. I just loved everything about it. I love trying to talk kids through situations, help kids navigate through situations.
That's probably my favorite part right there.
Oh, absolutely.
Try to talk through
So he was the guy that kind of got me started. And that was about 2009, 2010.
All right.
So I started out helping him coach his AAU team. He kind of brought me back to Southeast and helped. He was there as the assistant coach, and I was helping him do some things with the kids in the summertime, and that just kind of fed that appetite even more. So yeah, that's where it all started, and it's been rolling ever since.
Did you ever find yourself having some trouble meeting a kid where he is? Because I can, for example, just for the listeners that may not know what I mean by that is, whenever I started coaching when I was 22 years old, and early on, I was like, man, all right, I'm looking at this kid struggling with something that came so naturally to me, and I wasn't very talented. I had to be cerebral like you did.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking in my mind, I'm like, I'm gritting my teeth like, yo, why are you struggling with this? But then I had to get over myself as I grew to figure out, okay, this, no matter where I think this kid should be, they're not there. So let me go grab them by the hand, figuratively speaking, and then let's work from wherever they are and bring them up to speed. Did you ever have some of those moments?
Oh, yeah. Tons. It took a lot of me getting over myself, if that makes sense. Understanding that this kid is not you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I think sometimes, especially the mental aspect of the game, sometimes when a kid is just super talented, they've never had to think basketball.
True that.
They've just always played it.
Yep.
You know, and I think that's why, and I'm gonna come back to your point, but this is, I get into it with a lot of parents and other people around here when they say, oh, well, my kid trains with a D1 trainer, or my kid is playing for a coach that played D1 basketball. I said, man, look, I'm telling you, man, first of all, coaching and playing is a different skill set. But if you notice on all levels, a lot of times the guys who are the legendary coaches weren't the great players, because I couldn't just go out talent you. You know, when you're so talented, sometimes I can just go be better than you. I don't have to think the game better than you or anything like that, because I can just play better than you.
Right.
When you don't have all those athletic attributes and you have to think the game, you see the game differently. And I think that's what makes people like me, people like you, good coaches, because like I said, I couldn't just come jump over you. I couldn't
really
just come
wished I
dominate
could, though.
you.
I ain't lying.
It would have made it a lot easier.
Yeah.
But so, you know, kind of going back to your point, it made me realize, like, coach, you got to understand, this kid for so long has been bigger than everybody. He's been stronger than everybody. He's been more athletic. That's how he's relied on that. Now you're asking him to play the game. You're asking him to think basketball when all he's had to do was play it. So where something that was very, very basic to me is a novel concept to him, like setting your man up for a screen.
Hello.
You know, well, coach, he ain't never had to do that. They just threw him the ball and let him go to work.
Yeah, let him create.
Yeah, you know, he doesn't know how to move without the ball.
You can get away with that in middle school, maybe ninth grade.
Right. When the talent becomes comparable, what are you going to do now?
That's right.
And so it took a lot of me getting over myself and understanding, quit trying to, you know, force it into him. Talk to him, like you said, meet him where he's at, talk to him, and not only tell him, hey, this is what you got to do, but tell him why. I think when you can tell a kid why they should do something, it makes sense. And then when they see that it's successful, then that aha moment happens, that light bulb goes off. So it took a lot of me getting over myself and realizing, man, you're not them. Right. You know, their mind doesn't work like yours. Everything is different. So if you are going to be a coach, you got to figure out a way to reach him. He's not going to figure out a way to reach you.
Not his job.
Yeah, it's not his job. It's my job. So that's what I had to do. I had to put, you know, I'm not even going to, I hate to say the word ego as a coach, but I had to put whatever it was aside and just realize that I got to, like you said, meet them where they are and then see how we can progress together. That was how I kind of got over that.
Telling them why, man, that's a bar right there. And so now I try to beat them to the punch and explain it to them before they have to ask me. And that's another thing I had to sort of put my own pride aside too, whenever they would ask me why. Early in my coaching career, when I was coaching girls first, they were like, why? And I can remember what the consequences would have been in my era had I done that. Me too. And so I reached for that guard, like, what you? Okay, hold on.
Because I said so. That's
yeah. And that used to be good enough, but it's just not good enough now. And
different athlete.
That's right. And I think whether we know it or not, that we sort of contribute to them their IQ improving when we give them the why. So now everything that they're doing is serving a purpose, and we're helping them be able to think the game better for themselves. They won't have to ask us that question next time because they know why they're doing it. And then when they get in the next pinch, they'll be able to think their way through. Right. Call me crazy, but that's the way I like to look at it.
I agree. I saw something the other day. You know, I'm a big basketball buff, so I'm always looking at like inspirational basketball quotes.
For sure.
And I saw a quote that said, basketball coaches win practice, players win games. And I thought, you know, that made a lot of sense to me because in practice is where you do the teaching. It's where you answer the whys or where you beat them to the whys. You know what I'm saying? And we have to understand that as coaches. You know, we have to teach these kids how to play because at the end of the day, I don't care how talented they are kids.
Right.
And, you know, they don't know everything. No matter, you know, some of the best players I've seen in the state, and I watch them play, and I'm like, oh man, why did he make that play?
Yeah.
It's like, you know, like
he's human after all.
Yeah, like, dang man, he's too talented to make that play. But coach, he does maybe he doesn't know, or maybe at that point the game was moving too fast for him. So that's where you pull him to the side, like, hey, you know, what did you see right there? And that's another thing that I've gotten so much better. Like I try not to toot my own horn too much, but now I talk to my players where I used to, and don't get me wrong, I'm still known as the big crazy guy on the sideline.
You gotta be that now.
Yeah.
They gotta know what time
you know, they gotta know that I'm not playing, but I talk to my player and I said, hey, you know, what did you see right there? You know, what was the mind frame? What play were you? And sometimes I can see what they were trying to, like, I can see why he tried to make that play. Like the defender just made a great play. But at least now he's thinking like me. You know what I'm saying? He's thinking what I would want him to do on the floor.
I'm gonna steal that from you, man. You know what I mean? I haven't done much of that. You know what I mean? Just say, hey, man, what were you thinking right there? Whenever I hit him with that, a lot of times it's rhetorical. Man, what were you thinking, dude? No, I don't want no answer to that one.
Yeah.
But now I guess I gotta change the tone. What were you thinking right there, man? What would you see?
Tone is everything.
Big time.
You know, and I had to learn that too. I'm big on don't pay attention to the tone, pay attention to the message.
Yeah.
But when you're dealing with kids that don't have as thick of a skin as we had to come up with, you got to figure out a way to reach them. So sometimes your approach is how you do it. So like I said, I put them, hey man, you know, hey, don't worry about it. We're fine. Like we're good. But what were you thinking right there? Like, what did you see? Oh, coach, man, okay, yeah, that's cool. But next time, that read is probably not going to be there. You know, go to your secondary read, you know, something to that effect. And I think when you talk to them like that, you know, my mom is constantly on me about yelling at my players and stuff. So, you know, a lot of times, man, I'm starting to realize that they respond better.
They do.
Now, don't get me wrong. When I need to, you know, pardon my language, but I always tell my players, you know, the compliments have to be as loud as the criticism. You know, right. Yeah, I'm gonna kick you in your ass, but I'm gonna pat you on your back too. And that's, you know, I don't mean that literally. That's figuratively speaking.
Yeah. We get it. If we don't, man, you probably need to go watch some other podcasts.
Right. You know, but it just lets them know that, hey, we have a standard here.
That's right.
But I understand that you'll fall short of that, and I got your back. Like, we gonna work through that. Don't worry about it. Now, mistakes are gonna happen, but let's not make the same mistakes that I coached you up on just now. Like, go make a different mistake if you need to, or, you know, whatever. Just don't make the same one. And I think kids are more receptive to that. So,
yeah, there's a time and place for everything. Like sometimes I've had to tell my guys this before. Sometimes my tone is coming out however it's coming out because that's how urgent that I mean what I'm saying.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like if we coming down the stretch, it's a pressure situation and it's standing room only. I can't talk to you in this tone right here. You're not gonna hear me. You know what I mean? And plus, sometimes we got to give them the energy we want them to play with. Since we hear all the time that our players are extensions of the coach. Well, hey man, sometimes I got to give you that energy. Sometimes I got to do it. And then I'm gonna throw this term at you, and I want to see what you got to say about it. I was watching this one-on-one interview with Tim Grover, Michael Jordan's trainer from way back when, and he trained Kobe, he trained Dwayne Wade, and he said the difference between criticism and feedback is how you hear it. And to that, you would say what?
I agree 100%. Yeah, I completely agree with that. You know, it's competition. It's in the heat of the battle. it's not gonna always come out butterflies and rainbows. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
It's gonna be a little spit, glue, and nails in there. You know, like
a little edge to it.
Right. And sometimes you have to have that as well. You got to have a balance.
That's right.
You know, I think balance is, and that's just not in basketball or sports, that's in life. But you definitely got to have a balance. And I tell them, you know, I had a player tell me, man, coach, you yelling at me all the time. Well, you messing up all the time. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't wake up every day and say, you know what, I want to come argue at a 16-year-old today. Like, that's not what I do. So
I love that right there.
Yeah, you know.
What does a kid say to that and come back right there?
Yeah, I think sometimes they think we do that. Like, we don't have other pressing matters throughout the day, so we just want to wake up and come mess with you all day.
Can't wait till I get to the gym at 6 o'clock so I can get
on. That's my objective for the day. But yeah, I 100% agree with that. I've never heard that before, but yeah, I agree with that. I like that. That's a good coaching nugget. I think I'll take that.
Put that in the back pocket.
Absolutely.
But, you know, I hear this all the time, and we're gonna talk about you know, the nuts and bolts of running, not just coaching, but running an AAU organization. Mm-hmm. What are the differences in your opinion between running a program and coaching, or building a program and coaching? Because to me, those are two different things.
You know, to me, coaching is kind of cut and dry. You know, like we do the X's and O's, and you know, yeah, like every now and then you have to deal with other things that you have to put on a different hat. But when it comes to running a program, and for a long time I did it by myself. You know, I didn't have an assistant coach for a while, so I had to do everything. I hadn't always. This is the first year that I've actually had a good group of parents that have helped me, and I've actually had like a full coaching staff. My coaching staff, they're the greatest, man. They do a lot. They help me out a lot. But running a program, man, is hard because, you know, in AAU, you got a lot of things that you gotta find players, first of all. I've been all over the state of Oklahoma looking at kids. You know, I'll get coaches to say, hey, coach, you need to come check this kid out in Weatherford, Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. So I'm on the highway an hour and 40 minutes and, you know, trying to evaluate his game. So you got to find players. You got to deal with a lot of logistical stuff as far as travel, finding the right tournaments, talking to the right people to find the right tournaments. You talking to tons of college coaches all the time. Trying to find practice facilities, especially with COVID last year, man, that was crazy, man. It's been crazy this year trying to find just gyms to practice in.
That ain't gonna hit you over the head, huh?
Right. It's not charging $60, $70 an hour, you know, just crazy stuff like that. So that type of stuff comes into it. And then, man, like parents, man. Oh my goodness.
Some of them you see too much of, and others you probably don't see enough.
Don't see enough of. Yeah. I've had that problem. You know, sometimes I get on the highway, man, and I'll have 7 kids in my car. You know, just crazy. And nobody's was sent with gas money. Someone wasn't sent with money for food.
Nobody probably calling just to see how they doing either.
Nah, man, I've had kids that I've coached for years, man, and I pull up to their house, cars is there. I drop them off. Cars are there. Yeah. Parents don't come out and introduce themselves. They don't want to know who their kid is with, what he's doing. I'm like, man, your kid could just be telling you I'm a basketball coach. I could be doing anything. Mm-hmm. You know, so things like that come into AAU, you know, and I coach high school ball as well. And
some I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm actually assistant coach at U.S. Grant High School.
Okay.
Trying to help turn that program around.
Oh, yeah.
But a lot of things that I have to deal with in AAU, I don't really have to deal with in high school ball. So, and those are just a few. But other than that, man, it's not really, as far as off the court, I don't think, you know, it's too big of a difference. Like I said, just those things. And there's probably some more that I'm forgetting.
Oh, yeah.
Now, on the court.
List all day long.
Oh, yeah. And it's usually, you know, like when we're done, I think like, oh, damn, I should have said that. But
yeah,
on the court, I think there's a difference. And as a high school coach and as an AAU coach, I've had to find that balance of high school ball is a little too structured. Mm-hmm. AAU is a little too loose.
Right.
So you got to find that merger right there, you know.
That's the best description that I've heard anybody ever tell me, and I've always had that question: what's the difference?
And I think a lot of times that's what drives the wedge between high school coaches and AAU coaches, because AAU coaches, we feel like, man, we spent all spring and summer building this kid's confidence, letting him know, hey, it's okay for you to go make plays. And then you go to high school ball and, man, we want to pass it 15 times and we want this and we're running a set every time down. Whereas in AAU, I just got a continuity, you know what I'm saying? And we have structure, but you have the freedom to make a play. Where your high school team, he's kind of telling you where he wants the ball to go, and then there's not much instinctual about it. And that was one of the biggest differences that I saw. You know, when I would go recruit a kid for AAU, and I'm like, man, he told me to come watch this kid like this.
I don't see it.
Not showing me nothing. And then I see the kid in trial, man, and he's killing him. I'm like, where was that at?
Yeah.
Oh man, coach, my coach don't let me play like that. But then you have to tell them, look, even though in AAU you have more freedom, you still have to be able to run something, because in college you're going to have to do that. Mm-hmm. So you're going to have some IQ, some acumen somewhere in there. I can't just, this ain't a glorified pickup game. We can't just let you just roll the balls out and go play.
No, and they'll do it if you let them.
They absolutely will. And you'll look up and they'll be firing 30-footers like it's nothing, thinking that's coach, I can hit that. Well, if you make that 2 out of 10, yeah, you can hit it, but what's the, there's a difference between possible and probable. You know what I'm saying?
I'm going to take the 80 on that. You probably going to make it, so swing it.
Exactly. So let's not do that. But those were some of the big differences that I saw. And every time the age-old, conversation of what's the difference between AAU and high school, a lot of times that's it. It's like, well, these kids, they can't think. So when they get to high school, they can't play because they can't run anything. And it's like, okay, well, we feel like, that you guys are killing their confidence when they get there. The confidence that we had to work months and months to instill and let these kids know, hey, man, at the end of the day, you got to run sets and stuff. And as a coach, I would love to draw some up and it goes exactly how I plan.
Yeah, so I can feel good as a coach.
Yeah. But at some point, a player has to go make a play.
Yes, sir.
And so I think that's what I had to figure out, the balance between that. So those will probably be some of the just obvious differences. But at the end of the day, man, basketball is basketball. I think good players figure it out. Yeah, good coaches figure it out.
Speaking of coaches, man, you did something that, I don't know, maybe this may not sound like much to anybody that's watching and listening, but it's the first time I had it happen to me since I've been a head coach or a high school coach, even as an assistant. You had hit me up because you got one of my players playing on your team, Kalen Goff-Brown. He's our leading scorer coming back from last season. And you said, man, is there anything that you would like for this kid to work on and come back better at that maybe I can help emphasize? And I thought I was like, dang, I ain't never had that one before, but how important to you is it that both a kid's AAU coach and his high school coach be, I guess, in sync, for lack of a better word, without it turning into a situation to where you're telling me how to coach him or I'm telling you how to coach this kid?
It's imperative. I think if we both have the same goal in mind for this kid, we have to be on the same page. I'm not saying you have to run what I run for the kid. You're not saying that I have to run what you run for the kid. But if we are invested in this kid as a whole in his future, you coach him and I coach him. So we have to have an open dialogue on how can we make this kid the best player he can possibly be? Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, it reflects well on both of us if you think about it. Yeah. If I send him back to your program a better player, well, now let's say if you have a kid that I want to recruit next year, and I'm like, hey, coach, what you think about so-and-so? You think he'd be interested in us? Well, you can put in a good word because you know that I'm going to look out for his best interests. Mm-hmm. You get to win ball games because he's a better player, hopefully. But we both want to see the kids succeed. And I think at the end of the day, that is the most important thing. I'm not one of those people that thinks I know more than your high school coach. Like, to me, that's egotistical stuff. And that's, you got a lot of coaches around here that think they're like the gatekeeper of Oklahoma basketball culture or something like that. And they know everything. They are the end all be all. But no, I think that as more AAU coaches get involved in high school ball, I think they kind of see the two dynamics and how complex they can be if you don't have a village, so to speak, working cohesively to help this kid. So, and I do that for all my players. You know,
I could tell it wasn't just a one. You know, I knew it wasn't just a one-off.
Oh no, no, you can. Any of my players, coaches that'll see this podcast, you know, if they want to chime in, they can. They'll tell you, man. I'm sending messages every day. Hey, how's so doing in summer league? You know, like, is he implementing the things that we've been working on? You know, because first of all, I'm invested in the kid. I care about the kid. I want the kid to be a good player. And I want these high school coaches to know I'm not against you. I'm not your enemy. I'm trying to work with you. And I know a lot of people want to put high school coaches and AAU coaches against each other. Mm-hmm. But, you know, the beauty of that is I coach both, so I understand how that can work. You know, I understand how detrimental that can be.
Yeah.
So that's a huge part of my program. My program is built on that. And at the end of the day, man, these high school coaches, they have a lot of influence as well. So it would behoove me to work with you, you know, instead of against you.
Trying to work, it wouldn't make much sense.
Right. You know,
essentially we're fighting the same battle.
Exactly. And we're both going to lose that if we're working against each other. You know what I'm saying? Like, to me, what good comes out of it? So we might as well work together. That's how if we're working together, nothing bad, I feel, can happen.
Yeah.
So, you know,
that's doing? But I think you're doing it. I think you're doing it the right way, man. I think maybe the right way, it makes it too black and white. I think you're doing it the best way, that way. Now,
I try to.
Yeah, what you're doing is sort of the best of both worlds. You coaching high school and you're coaching AAU. Now, in one realm, you're an assistant. Over here, it's your show. Was it ever tough for you to, you know, check yourself and be like, hey, man, this ain't my show?
Man, that's probably the best question that I've ever been asked. It was definitely an adjustment. But I wanted to be the type of assistant coach that I would want. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not saying that I agree with every decision my head coach makes, but I support it.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? And sometimes I'll just say, hey, coach, just look at this.
Yeah, think about this.
Yeah, just look at it. Now, if you don't like it, you don't have to do it. You know, and that was part of swallowing my pride, suppressing that ego, understanding that just because a head coach doesn't take an idea that you think will work, that's not him saying that you don't know the game.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? Maybe he just doesn't, you know, he has a lot of pressure too. You know, he's trying to build a program, win games. Maybe he just doesn't think that's what's going to work right now. And I had to get over that. Like, damn, man, how you just not even going to take into consideration what I said? It's not that he didn't consider it. Maybe he thought about it. He looked at the personnel. Maybe he sees something differently than you do. Mm-hmm. So I had to get over that. But that was extremely, extremely tough for me. Especially when I was young. Cause I'm like, I know the game. You know what I'm saying, man? I got plays for days. I got concepts for days and you know, all of this. And I had to realize, man, it's not about you.
Right.
You know, and I think you truly become a good coach when you realize it's not about you, whether you're an assistant or a head coach. It's not about me. You know what I'm saying? What's best for this kid? What's best for my team? And so that's how I got over that. But yeah, it was definitely an adjustment. It was tough, man, just because I was used to making all the decisions. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I love about coaching. Like, I love that responsibility. I tell people all the time, you know, when you win, you have the best players in the world. When you lose, you got the worst coach in the world. That's you know what I'm saying?
Players win, coaches lose.
Exactly.
That's a fact.
But I always loved that. You know what I'm saying? I love shouldering that responsibility. And maybe it's because I'm just obsessive with it. I'm obsessive with the game. But when you're used to being kind of the voice, and look, this hinges, everything with this team hinges on my decisions. I think you kind of get used to that and you embrace that and you look forward to that. And it's like, now you're an assistant, and man, sometimes you may not necessarily not have a voice, but you may not have anything in the you know, the scheme that you like.
Right.
And what can you do? You know, that's your boss. You know, you got to deal with it. So it was imperative that I learned how to follow. You know what I'm saying? I had only, because to me, I'm a born leader. I'm a leader by nature.
True.
I've always been a leader ever since I was a kid. So it was tough for me to step back and realize this wasn't my show. But I tell players all the time, you don't have to be a player we win because of. You can be a player that we can win with.
That's
you know what I'm saying? And I feel like coaches need to have that same mindset. We don't have to win because of you, but we can win with you. You know what I'm saying? You can be a valuable asset without it being your show.
That's right.
So
that's getting out of your own way.
Yeah. And a lot of young coaches don't understand that, and it took me a while to understand that. But I knew if I wanted some longevity in this, especially with me wanting to pursue high school head coaching jobs, I knew I was going to have to learn how to follow someone else and not be egotistical about it.
Right.
So,
did you ever have some moments where you watched something, or you were seeing something, whether it was an instructional method at practice, or you saw something that you guys were emphasizing, and you like, that ain't gonna work, but then it worked, and then you learn right then where it's like, okay, there's more than one way to do this. I had that often when I first started. You?
Yeah. My first year at Grant, the coach that hired me is no longer there.
How long you been there?
This is my 4th or 5th year.
Okay.
The coach that hired me there was a coach named Aaron McVeigh. And he was a young guy, and me being older, I'm thinking like, I'm about to, school this youngster on how to run something. And he had asked me about a play, and I put it in, and for some reason we just couldn't run it. So he kind of scrapped it, and I was just like, oh man, here we go.
Yeah.
And then he ran something in the game, and I think we scored on it maybe like 3 or 4 straight possessions. I was like, whoa. Okay,
all right.
All right, I was humbled by that, you know what I'm saying? And I needed that because it let me know that everybody's philosophy is different. And I think we all have a philosophy that we like to impart on our teams as coaches. But at the end of the day, man, you got to know your personnel.
Bingo.
He had been there. He knew the personnel. I didn't. You know what I'm saying? I was trying to figure it out where he had those guys for 2-3 years already. So he knew this isn't going to fit them.
Yeah.
And that's why they struggled with it. And so he simplified some stuff, and, it worked. So, yeah, that was definitely, I've had many humbling moments in coaching and in life, but that was definitely one of the ones that sticks out.
Well, it seems like you're there now, but did you ever have trouble delegating responsibilities once you got assistant coaches?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I'm one of those guys that I think if I want it done right, as cliche as it sounds, you do it yourself.
Yeah.
I know, and if it's wrong, it's because of me. I had to learn how to, when I want to do drills in practice, I had to trust my coaches that they understood what to do. Otherwise, why do you have them here? If you don't trust them, why are they here? And I think it is so valuable that you give your coaches a voice because it makes them feel a part of it. You know what I'm saying? It lets them know that they have value. I mean, they're taking time away from their families as well. All my coaches, for the most part, have families. A couple of the younger ones are in school and college. So they have other things that they could be doing.
That's right.
They're not here just to kind of be like, your test dummy or your punching bag or something. Like They are here because they are trying to gain experience. They are trying to add value to this situation. So if I say, hey, I want the guards to go do this, I got to trust that Coach Darren can go down there and do that, and I don't have to micromanage it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And that was tough for me to kind of take my hands off because I'm a stickler for detail, and I want things done my way. But I had to understand that just the good assistant coaches will find out what their head coaches want. They'll do it, but they'll implement it. They'll implement their own little, whatever's that they want to put into it as well. And you got to trust that it's going to help develop the player and the team.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but it
was tough.
Because I'm a bit of a control freak, so it was tough.
I think all leaders are.
Yeah.
Whether we want to admit it or not, maybe I don't know if it ever just totally goes away. Maybe we get it to a certain size to where we can manage it.
Right.
But it's in there. It's in there.
I tell people all the time, because people always talk to me about me not flying. And I'm not scared to fly because of the heights or anything. I don't want to fly because I can't fly the plane. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't be in the cockpit.
Oh yeah, you different.
Yeah, I don't know.
You different.
You know, I don't know how your night was the night before.
Right.
I don't know if you're in a bad mood. Like, I don't know where your mind is. I feel safer if I can fly the plane. If you can show me how to fly the plane, I'm great.
Right.
You know, and I had to realize, like, Coach, you tripping now, man. Like, you doing too much. You have to relinquish that.
Yeah,
you
we
know,
going across the country, Coach.
Yeah, and I tell people all the time, I don't want to control other people.
Right.
I just want to control my situations.
There you go.
And I had to realize that it's okay to trust your coaches to kind of be a branch off of what you are. So
that's real. And for the sake of the kids, I've learned this. Man, it really doesn't matter what your personality type is. When you are the head coach, for some reason, you're looked at as like the boogeyman to some degree. So you need that liaison. Like that,
absolutely.
The relationship with the assistant is always going to be a little better.
Yeah.
At least on the surface than it is with you. They're going to go holler at him. You know
I agree.
And sometimes I miss being that go-to guy. I ain't going to lie. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But similar to you, I like being in that driver's seat to where it's like, okay, it comes down on me. You know what I mean? But I respect the fact that, okay, your relationship is better with Coach Watson or better with Coach Wayne. Go on and holler at them. You know what I mean? And I got my little portion of people that come straight to me. You know, but for the most part, they rock with the assistants. And that's I love it, man.
That's a dynamic that's needed. Like I said, I think it works out well for the kids, and also I think it works out well for the coaches because it lets them know that, hey, you mean something here.
You matter.
You absolutely matter. You're not just here collecting a stipend or whatever. You know, like, you are here to coach.
That's right.
These kids, because like you said, the head coach is looked at as the boogeyman. You know, I've had players say, man, I can't talk to Coach D. And I'm sitting up there like, why you can't talk to me?
I know you felt the way about that.
Yeah, like,
I'm approachable.
Yeah, what have I put in your mind that makes you feel like you? But it's because me being the head coach, I've had to give boundaries and I've had to enforce boundaries. Yeah. I've had to make you accountable, you know. So while I get in you and I dig in you, when you go sit down, that assistant coach, they're like, hey, you know, he don't mean it like that, man. He wants to see you do well, da-da-da-da-da. And I think kids kind of cling to that, you know what I'm saying? Which I think is in a child's nature. Most kids don't really cling to the guy that's, you know, disciplining them, you know. So
the path of least resistance, man.
Right. And sometimes that's the cost of leadership, man. It's the price you pay. And I think it's a necessary evil too.
That might be the name of the episode, Spook. You know what I'm saying? The cost of leadership right there.
Hey, it's huge, man. I made a post on Facebook about that, man. Like, leadership, you have a lot of things that, you know, you have to sacrifice to be in this position, but the good ones embrace it. I really believe that. As long as it's not nothing outrageous, you know, like just going to sacrifice my character or something like that. Yeah, that's a price I'm willing to pay. Oh, absolutely. I ain't doing that. You know, but people not liking me sometimes, you know, I've lost friends doing this. Parents who thought I was the best coach in the world until little Johnny wasn't playing.
Hey, everything's conditional.
Yeah, now I'm the worst thing ever. So, you know, it is what it is, man, you know, so.
But, you know, we getting ready to talk about your athletic career in a minute, but you just made me think of something. I want to throw this at you. I have a philosophy that I've sort of derived, man, and I'm gonna generalize a little bit, but, you know, feel free to add some context to it. I feel a way whenever parents say that they, hey, I'm all about the team. And I immediately look at them with my eyes like, okay, really? Mm-hmm. Because I don't think that a parent and a coach's interests are mutual.
It's never mutual.
Maybe up to a certain point, but at some point we're going to hit that fork in the road because you got one person in this program that you love more than anybody else in this program, including me, and I get that. So your job is him or her if it's girls we coach. My job is us, the collective. So if I get to the point where I decide that what's in the best interest of us collectively may not serve yours, then where we going to be? Me and you, parent.
Right. That's funny you mentioned that because people often ask me, like, typically in AAU, you know, you only have 8 or 9 players. They're like, Coach, why do you take 12, 13 players? I said, well, because of my coaching style, my philosophy, I guarantee you I'm going to have 3 or 4 kids quick.
You're going to run some people off.
Right. So a few weeks ago, a parent, me and this said parent, we've been friends for years. And I've coached her son before, you know, when he played for my younger team and stuff. And Kid, I love him to death, man. But on this team, he just happened to be behind some really good guards.
Yeah.
And she's always talked about how great of a coach she thought I was.
Mm-hmm. For years, huh?
For years. Man. And now this kid isn't playing a lot. And my issue, I'm not even gonna say it was an issue, but my reasoning to her was, you have the luxury of only worrying about your son. I have to worry about 9 or 10 guys. And this is why I have parent meetings before the season even starts. And I let them know, look, my relationship with you is not going to dictate anything. Because at the end of the day, I'm not loyal to this kid. I'm loyal to this team.
That's right.
And I have to be that way. So if your kid isn't measuring up or isn't doing the things that I need him to do or that my assistants need him to do, is that my fault or is that his? You know, and that's where me and her bumped heads and you know, some words were exchanged and she didn't understand, you know, why she had to waste her money to travel and this and that. And I was just like, I mean, I don't really know what to tell you. He's just not giving me what I need. So it definitely, like you said, everything is conditional, man. People like you as long as you're doing the things that benefit them. Very few parents can say, hey, if my child is not producing and is not giving you what you need, I understand what you are doing. You know, and I think a lot of times that's the parent has to be, first of all, if the parent is not accountable, they can't hold the child accountable. So, you know, my mom was never the type to bail me out of a situation.
Yeah, man.
You know, it's like, look, and my mom wasn't into sports. So it was just like, hey, I can't help you. This is what you wanted. Figure it out. Mm-hmm. You know, if this coach isn't playing you, there's a reason why. Because, I mean, coaches want to win. So if they're not playing you, they must feel like you can't help them win.
Yeah.
So
or they don't trust you.
Or
same thing.
They don't trust. It's the same thing. So what are you gonna do? I don't play for them. You do. So figure it out. And I think if a lot more parents started having, now if a coach is belittling your kid and making them feel less than and this and that, and the situation just not work, absolutely get your kid out of there. But if you just removing your kid because he's not playing and his feelings are hurt, to me, you know, figure it out. What can you do to be a better player? And I think most people don't do it. And that's just the culture we live in. You know, you look at the transfer portal and, you know, now with this open transfer and high school stuff going on, it's just like, man, now kids, instead of getting better and fighting through some adversity, we just pull them out.
Microwave, baby. We want it quick.
Yeah, and then you wonder why when these kids grow up as young men that they can't commit to anything. You wonder why they can't stay at a job. You wonder why when things get rough with their family, they leave. You know, it's like, well, you didn't instill commitment and fighting through adversity with him. He feels like he has this, you know, people talk about the whole fight or flight method that goes on in your brain. Like, they just flee because they don't want to battle through it. And I don't like when parents do that, you know, like, man, it's okay if he's not playing because you never know when your job as a player is to make me regret not playing you.
Yeah.
When I leave the game, if I'm not saying, man, I should have played Lil Johnny more, that's on him. That's not on me. You know what I'm saying? Because when I was a kid, whether I played 2 minutes or 20, if I played 2 minutes, I was going to make you realize that you needed to play me 4. And that was my whole mindset because I knew mama not gonna come save you.
Nah, you on your own.
Yeah, you on your own. Ain't no quitting. I didn't put my money into this. Like, you gonna at least finish this season out.
I love that part.
And so I just think these kids have no desire. I'm not gonna say they don't have any desire to get better, but they don't put an emphasis on it as much as because they know mama and daddy will bail me out if I need to. There are 100 other AAU teams in the state that I can go play for. They have that safety blanket instead of saying, look, no, you committed to you said this is what you wanted. You go figure it out. You go outperform somebody and you make this man realize that he needs you on the floor. And so it's just one of those things, man. We're like, hey, I'm sorry, but if he's not producing, I can't play him. And if you don't like me because of that, if you don't want your kid on my team because of that, that's a price I'm willing to pay. Like I said, I love the kid to death. But what do you want me to do? I have 9, 10 other guys that want to win. You know, they are here to win. They are putting in the prerequisite work to obtain a certain goal. So how is it fair to them? So I'm supposed to pull minutes from them when he's earning them, he's producing, just because your feelings are hurt? Then you don't understand what competition is about. You don't understand what sports are about. So, man, I don't worry about that stuff, man. It is what it is. I have parents that love me to death. I got parents that hate me. It is what it is,
What's
man.
that word you said earlier? Balance?
Balance. There
like
you go.
Sound like you got it right.
Exactly.
But now, when did you first start playing competitive sports? And which sport was it first? Was it always hoops only?
First sport I ever loved was football, actually. Growing up I was born in 1982, so growing up in the 80s and the 90s, you know, there was a football game called Tecmo Bowl on Nintendo.
Way back.
Yeah, and I love that. I'm a diehard 49er fan, so that was what I grew up in a neighborhood where footballs, we all had them because they were cheap. You know, you didn't need much to start a football game, just a ball.
It's a ball.
You
You didn't even need no grass. We go to the street.
Yeah, we played in the street all the time. You know, basketball, you needed a goal, and that stuff cost money at that time. So it wasn't until the 92 Dream Team, as cliche as that may sound, that I fell in love with basketball. Like, I had always tinkered with it and stuff, just because, like I said, we wake up in the morning, as soon as our feet hit the floor, and mom's like, hey, you got to get out the house.
Yeah,
go outside and play. Get you something to eat. Go outside. So it was nothing for us to have 20, 30 kids early in the morning walking around trying to find something to do.
That's right.
So, I grew up in a neighborhood where, we would get together every day and, we'd play like Foursquare and tetherball and football and stuff. And then when I saw that, I had always heard of Michael Jordan, I'm just like, whatever. And then I saw that 92 Dream Team, man. I saw the collection of talent. I was just like, whoa, like.
Different.
Right. And at the time, I didn't have a basketball, so like I would take, this is when we had the metal trash cans. I would put like a metal trash can at the end of each drive, and I had a soccer ball.
Oh, yeah.
And I would just shoot in that, and that's kind of where that love for the game came from, man. And it just stuck, man. Like, it was an itch that was never scratched, honestly. I kept wanting to play. The more success I had in, I'm like, okay, I like this game. You know what I'm saying? So that's where it started for me. Like a lot of kids my age, a lot of people my generation, Michael Jordan, 92 Dream Team.
Yeah, man. So when did you first get on that team for the first time? And how old were you, rather, when you first put that jersey and shorts on? Like, I'm about to hoop.
I think I was 11. Okay. Like I said, I had been playing maybe? Somewhere in there. My mom put me on the YMCA team.
Hey,
we were called the Giants, ironically.
Like, Giants,
yeah, a basketball team named after a football team.
I've
heard
that one before.
Right. And this is when the YMCA was over on 36 and Martin Luther King. It's been a bunch of different things since then, but that's where it started, man. I remember playing games, and we were getting killed, and sometimes it'd be like 26-8, and I would have like 6 points.
Oh, so you took off fast, though, huh?
Like I got it quickly.
Okay.
I wasn't born with many natural gifts with the game, but the one thing I could always do was shoot.
Yeah.
I wasn't always quick. I didn't have the handle, but I could shoot.
Shoot the thing.
Yeah. So, it was 6 of the 8 points, and I started seeing some success. So that was my first team. Then from there, I played for a team called the Oklahoma Bulls, and that we weren't that good. It wasn't until I got my freshman year, I was on a team called the Oklahoma Trotters. Yeah, and they were considered one of the top AAU programs around at that time, coached by Coach Samilton and, his brother Landon Samilton. And that was my first real success. And that was my first taste of playing on an elite team.
Yeah. And
it humbled me quickly because I realized
levels to this.
I'm not as good as I thought. That's when the mindset kicked in. Okay, well, he can't go left. Okay, well, he not a good shooter. play off of him a little bit. He's a little quicker, Then I learned how to play angles and stuff like that. So once I realized I was able to somewhat compete with these guys, I'm like, okay, all right, I can do this.
I'm ready now.
Yeah. Well, I knew I could be a contributor. I knew I was never the best player on any team I played on outside of that Giants team, Right. So, but I knew I could contribute, you know what I'm saying? So that was a positive for me. And that's kind of how I always looked at myself. I never played safe, but I knew don't be a detriment. You know what I'm saying? Always be a positive, even if it's not putting the ball in the basket. So that was kind of my approach. But yeah, that's kind of where it all took off for me as a freshman. I mean, I made my middle school team. I went to Webster Middle School. I didn't make it till the 8th grade.
Gotcha.
So again, another humbling experience, coming home crying, and because I got cut in the 6th grade and the 7th grade. So it's like, man,
I can't do nothing for you, kid.
Can't do nothing for you. My mom was the type like, look, I can get you whatever you need, but I can't coach you. I don't know what to do. When I got to high school, she bought me some weights from a garage sale. She was like, I heard this will help you. She didn't know how, and neither did I, but that's how my mom was. Like, look, what do you need? Shoes, balls, weights, I can get that. But that's as far as I can take you. Mm-hmm. The rest is up to you now. So, but yeah, that's kind of where it all started for me.
And then you went to high school at Southeast, right?
Southeast Spartan.
Southeast. Now,
yes,
listen,
sir. My alma mater.
Listen, they got some pretty rich tradition as far as being very good basketball-wise. How was it another level up? It was similar to that AAU Trotters experience when you got to high school? Like, okay, hold up now.
Actually, when I got to high school, we weren't that good.
Is that right?
Because Southeast didn't reopen till 92, 93, somewhere in there. So for those years, we were getting smacked. I got to Southeast in 96. We didn't have our first successful season till 98 with that group. Now, since then, it's been, tradition rich and stuff like that. But another humbling experience was realizing that there's a difference between varsity basketball and middle school basketball. Because, coming off 8th grade year, did pretty well. This school sucks. They not that good. You get in there, you thinking, man, I can make an impact as a freshman. Immediately.
That's what you thinking.
Yeah, and then you get in there and you see these dudes that's been lifting weights for 2 or 3, and you like, whoa. And they taking you wherever they want you to go,
right.
Hand checking you, pushing you where I'm like, oh man, like
it's a little different.
Yeah, I'm like an infant out here to these guys. And another one of those humbling experiences. Did all right as a freshman though. I think I was the 2nd leading scorer on the freshman team, so that was pretty good. I didn't touch varsity. I suited up a couple of games, but I never touched the floor, which at the time as a freshman, it was just an honor just to be on there. I was excited just to come to practice.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Cats need to hear that right there. It's like it don't happen overnight.
Man, you got kids now that'll leave a school because they don't come in and immediately are on varsity. I was talking to a coach on Twitter yesterday, and he was talking about the Chris Paul post. I don't know if you saw it, where Chris Paul was talking about he spent his first 2 years of high school on JV.
Yep.
And everybody like, oh man, he was a McDonald's All-American. I'm tired of him acting like he had to grind. I'm like, no, I think y'all missing the point.
Yeah.
What he's saying is he didn't come in like super hyped like a lot of kids did. We're talking about one of the best point guards in the history ever of basketball, who actually played 2 years of JV ball, getting prepared for varsity. That's huge.
Yeah, when everybody's used to the story of, oh yeah, man, he been playing varsity since 8th grade.
Right, exactly. So to me, that was what I took from that. But yeah, man, I was just, like I said, man, I walked into a varsity practice, man, and I was just in awe, like, man. And I'm looking at guys that I thought were just really good basketball players, guys like Patrick Coates and Chaz Parrish and Chaz Hampton and Carlos Dixon, these guys. I'm just like, man, I'm here with them. I knew I wasn't going to touch the floor, but I knew that could only make me a better player. So
you weren't fearful at all, right? You was like, okay.
I was a little intimidated, but
that's a softer word than scared, though. I mean,
I wasn't scared. I just knew they were better players,
right?
And I knew physically they were stronger and bigger and stuff like that. But I knew you weren't going to outthink me. You weren't going to outwork me. You weren't going to out-tough me. Now, you may outplay me.
Right.
But you won't beat me in those 3 facets. So I can contribute if I don't let you beat me in those 3 facets. So that was a pivotal, point in my basketball career where I'm like, okay, I can do this. I can play high school basketball.
When did you finally get your feet on the floor at the varsity level? Was it sophomore or junior year?
It was as a junior.
Okay.
So, we had a lot of talented players come through Southeast, man. But yeah, it was as a junior, and I still feel like we should have made the state tournament that year. We were ranked in the top 5 all year, and get to the tournament, start of the tournament, and lose our first game. So,
oh man,
yeah. So we were done. Yeah. So, but yeah, it was my junior year, man. I can't remember who we were playing or nothing like that, but my junior year was a pretty solid year for me. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I was never the best player, but that was a solid year for me.
That was your senior season, man. Did you turn into that jock? Like, yo, man, this is my show, man. I've been pounding the pavement, paying these me, man. I
wouldn't say I turned into a jock, but I knew I had a leadership role on the team.
You value it?
Yeah, I've always valued leadership. So my senior year, there were only 3 seniors on the team and only 2 of us played, but we both started. Now, one of the seniors, a guy named Terry Holly, was actually the best player. He made like All-State that year. I think he averaged like 24 a game. Then we had a junior up under him, kid named Damarian Johnson, who was our second best player. I felt like I was 3rd or 4th best player on that team. So that was kind of the role I took. My job was to knock down shots. I knew I wasn't out there to create plays for anybody, so I just did my job. I would catch and shoot. I was a heady defender, but I was tough. I was gritty. Like I said, man, I was never the best player, and I understood that. I knew I wasn't out there to get 20 a game, so that's not how I approached it, But I starred in my role, so to speak.
There you go.
Yeah, that was...
Sound like Doc Rivers, man. Be a star in your role.
Yeah, that's key, man. I don't think people understand how valuable that can be. I tell my players all the time, the best thing you can be in life is consistent. Like, my teammates and my coaches knew consistently what you were going to get from me. They knew DeAngelo's going to make shots. If you find him, he'll make the shots. You knew if we played 25 games, 22, 23 of those games, I was going to make the shots when I had them.
There you go.
Now I wasn't going to go out there and create any shots.
No.
But
you need somebody to set the table.
Yeah, and that's why I had 24 a game here, 19 a game here, because when y'all focusing on them, now I can star in my role. That's how I looked at it, man. And we actually made it to state that year and lost in the first round of state to Booker T. They had like Angelo Estes and Robert Meacham was a youngster on that team. They had Matthew Berry and so, they had a really good team. Yeah, they had a really good team.
Different, man. But ain't nothing like going to that state tournament. It don't get old to me even now. I ain't reached it yet as a head coach. That's still on my list, but I'm ready to make that happen. I'm writing that down.
It was a great experience, man. I wish we could have went further, but that was actually one of my worst games. So it was one of those that...
Yeah, we gonna circle back to that too. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
But now you going to college now. Where'd you go to school at? You may mention of college a couple times, but I never asked you where you went to school.
Yeah, I went to a small Christian college called Hillsdale at the time.
Oh yeah.
Now it's called Randall.
Mm-hmm. Right off the turnpike.
Yeah, another humbling experience. Right off the highway. Another humbling experience. So I'm coming from an urban school, that had a lot of black athletes and stuff.
Yeah. And in the city, baby.
Yeah, I held my own. So I get to college, right? And Coach Archer walks in study hall first day of school. And he slaps the playbook down on the desk. And man, that thing is like that thick. I'm sitting up here like, the hell is this?
Yeah.
I'm used to going over plays in practice and stuff. I'm like, what is this?
We got to study?
Yeah. First official practice is in 2 weeks. You got to know the whole playbook. I said, this white man crazy as hell. Like, man, I ain't worrying about no playbook. So
immediately you were defiant, huh?
Yeah, I ain't getting no playbook. So we get to practice, right? And, he had like 8 guys returning from his team before, like the year before. And they in practice killing us new dudes, man. It's a bunch of us. It's like a bunch of, he probably brought in like 15 new guys. So it had a JUCO type feel to it. So I'm sitting up like, damn.
Knowing everybody ain't gonna finish.
And I'm knowing that. So, you know, we're going through practices and I'm mad because he's playing me at a position I don't like. I'm like, man, I'm a shooter.
Right.
You know, at the time I was a pretty, you know, because like I said, I had got into weights and stuff. So I was a pretty stout guy, you know what I'm saying? And he wanted to post me up a little more. And I'm like, dude, I'm not a post player. You know, like, no, I'm a wing.
Sound like today.
Yeah. So I was defiant in that aspect as well. So it comes time to select varsity. And he lets his top 8 guys that were there the year before rank the new guys 1 through, I don't know, this is like 17, 18 of us somewhere in there. So I'm sitting there like, these kids from these small towns and stuff like Fairland and, you know, Hilton and Ada. I'm like,
you had no respect for that.
Yeah. So, you know, they ranking players and I'm looking. Everybody getting called but me. You know, I'm seeing everybody walk by. And finally he gets the 13th. Who do you think, it was after 12. Who do you think is 13th? And they said me. Ooh. And I was sitting there like, man, you got me effed up.
Yeah, y'all disrespectful in the
what? I said, man, I kill everybody in here.
Right.
And one of the older guys said, DeAngelo, you right about that. But you can't run a play. How are you going to help us? He said, do you know you got 2 guys right here that average 20 a game already? You think we need another scorer? And I shut up right in my tracks. And I thought to myself, you right. You know, I didn't tell him that, but that's what I was thinking. And that was another humbling experience. I told myself, I'll never feel that again. I'll never feel that. So all that, you know, I didn't start out on varsity, but within a month, I was suiting up varsity because I immersed myself in my playbook. My attitude changed. My work ethic was through the roof. I buckled down and started doing the things that I needed to do. And, you know, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier, where a lot of kids would have went home.
Yeah.
I told myself, like, nah, this is where I said I wanted to be. So how can I make it the best situation for me? And I ended up being a 3-year starter there, man. So I don't have any complaints, but it was definitely for my level, you know, like I knew I wasn't a Duke, North Carolina guy. You know what I'm saying? Like,
same here.
Yeah, you know, and
that was my cheat code. I always knew exactly what type of player I was and what type of player I was not.
And the ability to self-assess is key. I don't think people realize that, but let alone players, you know. And to me, I was never offended that I wasn't a D1 player. You know what I'm saying? Like, my objective was just getting an education. Yeah. I didn't
on somebody else's bill.
Yeah, because I mean, when you get that degree, it doesn't say you went to a D1 school. You know what I'm saying? It just says you have that degree. And that's what, if you decide you want to work for yourself or you want to work for somebody else, that's what they want to see, that you had, you know, the dedication to finish a process, to finish something that you started, that you were committed to. And that mattered. And that was important to me. So I didn't care that, you know, I had guys like, man, why would you go there? And I'm like, man, I get to play basketball, the game I love. I get to be on the team. Like, that was some of the best times of my life. And we won a national championship my sophomore year on our level, man. And that was the best feeling in the world, man. I met, you know, guys that I still talk to this day, teammates that I had to this day. Actually, one of the guys that I played college ball with, his uncle was instrumental in getting me the job that I have now, simply because he remembers me from college. So, you know, relationships matter. And like I said, I still talk to a lot of those guys. I still talk to my college coach, man. And some of those bus rides, and he was the best, man. Like, he was a country Arkansas kid, so he would play his banjo on the bus, you know, just stuff like that. Like, he was just one of those cool dudes, you know what I'm saying, laid back.
Entertaining everybody.
Yeah, you know, and that's how he was, man. And he treated you like a son, you know. And I said, man, I don't regret at all, because I know guys, I got friends that, you know, played D2 ball and stuff like that, and went and sat the bench for 3 or 4 years. I'm like, man, I got to play fairly early. You know what I'm saying? I got to do well on my level, and I understood that, and that was never a knock as far as I was concerned.
Yeah, and I tell a lot of the youngsters these days, unless you have the pick of the litter, meaning you can go wherever you want to go. You that type of talent, then you don't think about where you want to go. Go to where they want you.
Yeah,
you know. And then my pop said something about a month ago that I thought was like, I was like, dude, that's a bar. You don't even know it. He said most people are relatively good. Like you good relative to where you are. Now can we take you and you be as impactful over here? Most of them, probably not. And then you got those select few, the chosen ones, that are absolutely good. As good as they are, they're gonna be that good no matter where you put them.
Yeah.
I wasn't one of those. I was relatively good.
Either. And I deal with that a lot in AAU. I tell guys, man, you're Oklahoma good.
Bingo.
But if I take you to Chicago and there's a kid here that's playing to change the trajectory of his family, that's a different dog right there. You know what I'm saying? You know, when you trying to change the lifestyle, the living situations of your family, you know, that's playing with that responsibility will make you go at everybody's neck. And I try to tell these kids, man, can I take you to the trenches and you be as good as you are now? Probably not. And you know, as far as the kids that, you know, can go play Power 5 ball, if you're in that top 2% or 1%, consider yourself fortunate. Most of you will not be that. Like, statistics say that you won't play past high school competitively. So, man, you better value these offers, man, especially in today's climate. Like now, I told my kids from my team last year, like, man, what are you waiting on? You know, man, those offers, man, you got a JUCO offer. You're waiting on 3 or 4 more JUCO offers. Take this one.
You better stop playing.
You know, and if something else comes along, you know, you want to decommit, then do that. But right now, because they will move on past you. You know what I'm saying? You got to value these offers, man. I don't think these kids understand that.
Yeah. You got to make these calls. You got to take these calls. You got to follow up.
Yeah.
You can't be having people speak for you. It's time to be a big boy.
And you have to know your level. You know, I'm all for kids betting on themselves and stuff like that. But I told them, man, make sure you get sound information. Make sure you listen to the right people, because don't listen to mom and daddy, because mom and daddy think you the best thing since sliced bread. Yeah. They don't understand that you're not a D1 player. And there's nothing wrong with that. Maybe you're an NAIA guy. What's wrong with that? Some of the best hoopers I know played NAIA ball, and they would kill a lot of these guys. So go do that. Go get your education, man. And I hope a lot more kids understand how valuable these offers are, man. Because like you said, you're good. You're relatively good. You know what I'm saying? It's not a knock, it's a fact. Yeah, and that don't always transfer. You know what I'm saying? Everywhere.
I got 2 more things I want to throw at you, Coach, man, because it's been super dope. But
I appreciate it.
I gotta get heavy for a second. You hit me up the other day and you gave me some feedback on the podcast that we did with Willie Ponder. You said that it hit different in a different way for a bunch of different reasons, and you pulled the curtain back on some information I had no clue about you. And I thank you for even, you know, thinking whatever you thought of me to give me that. And you know, the center of it from my standpoint was really investing in your mental and as a man, particularly a black man, not feeling so vulnerable or too weak to say whenever you got some demons that you're wrestling with, man. So will you feel free to go into some of what you shared with me about some of the plight that you went through at some point in your life?
Well, you know, the thing that I thought was, you know, that resonated heavily with me with that interview that you had with was Willie Ponder.
Yes, sir.
Which great content, man. It was something that I think a lot of people need to hear, was his battle with mental health.
Yes, sir.
And you know, I told you the backstory behind. I had never battled with mental health issues. You know what I'm saying? I was always, you know, I grew up in the hood. I was always thought of as the tough guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, my nickname is Debo, so I kind of had this tough persona about me. And you know, the mother of my kids, we were together, you know, off and on for 15 years, man. I loved her dearly. When she was 5 months pregnant with my youngest son, Cameron, we found out that she had brain cancer. And it's one of the rarest forms, glioblastoma. And that was a very crazy time in my life, because a lot of people don't know is like I was coaching at that time, you know, but what's weird is I was working overnight. So I had a night job. I had practice in the evenings, and when I left practice, I would go straight to work. So when we got blindsided by that, I mean, she was having some issues, but we just thought, oh, it's just pregnancy stuff going on, hormones and stuff. And, you know, it wasn't until she wasn't able to move, you know, her right arm that we realized, okay, something is wrong. So, you know, I'm off of work and I'm asleep. I'm knocked out. And my mom is actually calling me and my phone is blowing up. And I'm just like, man, because I know my mom, sometimes she can be over dramatic and stuff. I'm like, man, what does she want?
Right.
And I pick up the phone. She like, you need to get to the hospital quickly. I'm like, for what? She's like, Jamie's in the hospital. They found a mass on her brain. So I get to the hospital, like, I'm freaking out.
Yeah.
So I can tell she's scared and stuff. And, you know, they do the CAT scan. They like, yeah, she definitely has a mass on her brain. We got to send her to Integris. She has to have a, I can't even remember what the surgery was called, but it was to resect the tumor or try to remove the tumor or the mass so they could figure out what it was. So she's in surgery that night. I'm having to go to work. So I go to work and I'm getting updates. At this time, I'm driving trucks for Napa. Man. So I'm way out in Western Oklahoma. I'm out by like Weatherford, Sayre, Mango. I'm way out in the sticks, man. Mm-hmm. And I'm getting a phone call. I'm getting the updates. And they like, well, it's definitely a tumor. A couple hours later, well, it's definitely cancerous. And then, so, you know, you hear that and you like, whoa.
Yeah.
It kind of knocked the wind out of your sails. So, you know, they send it off to be examined and stuff. And at this time, like I said, she's pregnant with our son, my 5-year-old. So I about a week later, they tell the whole family they need to come to the hospital. So I immediately know this ain't good when they call you and tell you that. But I'm like, okay, maybe they gonna tell us it's cancerous, obviously.
Right.
This is the treatment plan. Like, I'm trying to think positively. And man, I remember just sitting there and the doctor came in. And the doctor said, you know, she has glioblastoma. This cancer is not curable. She has about 8 to 12 months. And I just, like, I don't remember anything after that. Of course, I'm bawling and stuff, man. And everybody leaves the room. They leave us together. And I'm just like, you know, like, selfishly, what am I going to do? You know, like, I'm about to have 2 kids now. And we had actually had a daughter in 2012, and our daughter passed. Our daughter was born premature, and she was born October 8th. She's actually named after my mom, and she died on Halloween of 2012. So we had battled through that, and that was heavy on our relationship. We had to kind of mend that. So, you know, they do the brain surgery, whatever. You know, they remove the tumor. They like, we need to start treatment. Well, she can't start chemo because she's pregnant. And they was like, my thing was, if it's not curable, why even try the chemo? You know, if you only have a year left, let's enjoy that. And let's have a quality of life, because that chemo is rough on you, man. Yeah. But I understood her plight with that. She wanted to give herself a fighting chance, even though this cancer had a 92% mortality rate within the first year. So I was like, well, that's what you want to do, fine. So our son is born. Well, because she had brain surgery, she actually had 2 brain surgeries, one to remove the tumor, and then she ended up having the fluid build up on her brain. So they had to put stents in her brain. From her brain went through her rib cage into her abdomen to drain the fluid that was building up. So she had 2 brain surgeries. Well, she was on Dilaudid and morphine. So my son was born addicted to those things. So he immediately had like 3 or 4 strokes when he was born. So they had to put him in a medically induced coma. And he was in that from the time he was probably 48 hours old. So when I would go up to the, you know, my son he's in the NICU. Then they move him to Children's Hospital, which is on one side of town. She's in Integris, which is on another side of town. I'm still coaching and I'm still working and I have a 9-year-old son. So I'm sitting there, man. I thank God for my family, my parents, because, man, they helped me out a ton. But the doctor, which was something that just floored me. She was like, Mr. Anderson, it is very feasible that you may have to plan 2 funerals. And when you hear that, you like, man, like that's heavy.
Yeah.
So I'm like, nah, I refuse to believe that. And, you know, my mom is very religious and stuff. So she prayed over my son a ton. You know, my son was born deaf and all kind of stuff. Well, he ended up getting shipped to another hospital out in Bethany, a children's rehab center. And so, you know, after he's born, they send her home, which is, you know, she's at my house. It's set up like a hospital, basically. It's set up like a hospital room. And, you know, she couldn't move. She couldn't walk because the surgery, the parts of the brain they removed to try to remove the tumor, it had affected her ability, her motor skills. So she couldn't walk. So, you know, we're having to take her to the bathroom. We're having to feed her. You know, she couldn't, there's times she couldn't make it to the bathroom. So, right. You know, you got to deal with that. And I'm working nights driving trucks. So it's like my day would look like this. I would get up in the morning. If my mom didn't have my son, which she did a lot, man, and I'm telling you, man, my mom is like the best, dude. That's like my best friend. But if she didn't have my son, I would have to take him to school, come back home, get his mom up, take her to her cancer treatments, sit there all day, then bring her home, go pick my son up from school, then, you know, try to get dinner and stuff ready if I could, you know, which I'm a horrible cook. So
he said, not bad, bro.
Yeah, horrible. So that probably wasn't very edible. Then I had practice at 6 p.m. I practiced from 6 to 8:30. So I would practice, leave practice, go to work, get off work in the morning, and then start the process all over again. So kids wonder why I don't understand them missing practice and stuff. I was like, and I get it. I'm a grown man. I'm an adult. So you know, obviously I have methods and ways and resources to get to practice that you don't. But I feel like if I can make it to practice through that, you can. Like, there aren't very many things that should keep you out of practice outside of bleeding from your eyeballs or something to that effect. But yeah, man, that was a very tough time, man. And I didn't realize she ended up passing about 8 months later. She never really met my son. When she would go see him, he was in his coma. So he really never met her. And by the time he got out the hospital, she was completely incoherent from the chemo. You know, she was kind of on the downhill stretch. She was in hospice and they was just letting us know that she had no chance. So, you know, this was in 2016, man. And I battled with that, you know, like, I struggled with fatherhood at that point. I developed what they call survivor's guilt. I developed anxiety. I fell into like a depression, but I was just like, man, I'm a coach. I'm a leader. I'm a father. I'm a leader. I'm Debo. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't, like, this stuff don't happen to me. Yeah. So I suppressed it.
Right.
You know, I tried to deal with it, and man, it ate me up, man. It was days where I wouldn't go to work for like 3 or 4 days at a time. It was days where I wouldn't get out the bed. I just didn't have any motivation. I was still coaching. I never missed practice and stuff like that. But
were you able to be present while you were there, you think?
I believe so, because that was kind of my sanctuary, my getaway. Mm-hmm. But man, just every other aspect of life, I didn't really like. I dealt with suicidal thoughts, and you know, I thought that was a sign of weakness for me to even think like that. Right. You know what I'm saying? And for like 2 or 3 years, man, I ignored it, just like nah. And then it was one day where like I really, like I broke down crying, man, and I hadn't cried. Like I didn't even cry at her funeral. You know what I'm saying? Like that's how numb I was. And I really thought, and this was a powerful moment for me, I really thought I was gonna take my life. Because I really I'm like, the woman I love is gone. I have a son that's disabled. You know what I'm saying? I'm not being a good father right now because I'm not mentally right. And it was one of them things where I was like, look, dude, quit feeling sorry for yourself. Fix it. You always tell your players to fix it. Now you fix it. So I went in and I got help, man, and I'm thankful for it, man. I had some resources through my job and stuff like that, man. I've been in therapy for about 1.5 years now. I go twice a week. And I'm still, you know, I'm in a far better mental state than I've ever been, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, it's just demons that I'm battling with, man, things that I had to kind of fix and get over. But it was rough. It was easily the toughest time of my life. And it is still tough, you know, but it's gotten better with the right things available to me. So
I got to salute you on that, brother. That's called doing the work right there, though.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Doing the work. But here's how we're going to lighten it up, brother. You know what I mean? Shake the heaviness off.
Okay.
We call this one the all due disrespect segment, brother. That's how we're going to wrap it up. So you're a competitive guy.
Yes,
I want
sir.
you to go back into the archives, and I want you to think about a game where you lost and you had no business losing. And it still eats at you to this day. And if you could hit that rewind button and go back and run it back, you would go to that game, whether it was during your days as a player and as your days as a coach.
Okay. Can I give 2?
Absolutely.
First game was my junior year in high school. We were a top 5 team, top 5 or top 7, one of those. We were playing a Carl Albert team that had no business even on the floor with us.
Like that.
Yeah, and we go down to Chickasha to play them first round of the tournament, 5-8, and they beat us. That was tough. So that's high school ball. Now, coaching wise in AAU, and me and this guy, we've had some words on Twitter. So I'm sure he'll chime in because he thinks him beating us was just such a huge deal.
I can't wait to hear this day.
But we played a team last year called JEB Elite.
Oh, okay.
It was our first tournament of the summer. They had a couple of good players. To me, we were the far better team. And,
Right.
you know, I had some things going on with my guys. You know, I had a couple of starters who had missed practice, so I was trying to make a point. And
You got to do that. You got to do those things.
yeah, so I didn't have my normal starting lineup, my cohesive unit, and they beat us. We were down like 14, and we come back with like 4 minutes left. We come back. As a matter of fact, we took the lead. We missed a free throw. They get a rebound. Somehow they throw it deep and get a 3 off of it, and they're up 2. We come down, get an and 1.
Uh-oh.
Make the free throw.
The hard way.
Yeah, so we're still in our press. It's like 6 seconds left. They throw it in. I don't know why my guy left this kid, but dude catches it at like 3/4 court, heave it up at the buzzer, and it goes in.
All net.
All net. And I'm sitting up here like, we lost to this team? Now, like I said, and we got them back later on that year. We ended up beating them by like 13 or 14 the second time. But, you know, like I said, me and him, we always have words with each other. And,
Oh, yeah. Now, look, did the word start before that L y'all took or after?
I mean, honestly, me and him have always been cordial.
Yeah.
You know, I would never say we've been just cool, but we've always been cordial. We had our words when last week on Twitter, he said that his team was the best team in OKC, and I was the best independent team. Well, I'm thinking he was saying independent. He said the best team. Man, I'm thinking like, man, you don't know, you got Trae Young here, you got Team Griffin, but I'm like, if we're talking independence,
You had to get in that convo. Huh?
yeah, I'm like, you know, you haven't beaten any of us to even say that. Like, I played you earlier this year and beat you by 24. So I was just like, how did you say that? So that's where the words came from. And I just wanted him. I wasn't trying to be an a-hole.
Right.
I just want to know what merit were you standing on when you say that? Because if I say I'm the best team in Tulsa, high school wise, I'm going to say, well, I've been able to beat Tulsa Central, Booker T, you know, whoever, Tulsa Memorial, everybody else. I'm just like, man, you ain't even played any of us. You played me and we beat you by 26 or 24. And now all of a sudden you're the best team in OKC. I get it. Coaches have to, you know, instill confidence in their players. But man, you got to be realistic. We can't. If he had said I'm one of the best teams, fine, cool, whatever. But to say you are the best kind of rubbed me the wrong way. So I had to chime in, and it just kind of went from there. So now we don't get along and don't like each other, I guess.
Oh, man.
It is what it is.
Well, listen, man, this has been great, my man.
We should do it again.
But for sure, man.
Absolutely.
We in this state that's getting smaller. You know,
Yes,
I
sir.
get on that road anytime and come see you, man. And I
I'll
appreciate
come to Tulsa too. You know, there's no thing.
Hey, listen, we two Tulsa boys here too, so we can definitely make that happen. But I want to tell
Let's
you,
do
I
it.
appreciate the work you're doing.
Thank you, sir.
For these young men, man.
I appreciate it.
I appreciate the work you're doing with my young man, one of my guys that has a lot of stock in my program. And
Big July coming up for him.
Heck yeah, it is. Heck yeah. And I think he's finally got himself in a position where he seems to be comfortable. And I'm just glad that it seems to be a fit. So,
Absolutely.
Best of luck moving forward, my brother.
Thank
and
you.
thanks
Best
for the
of luck,
hospitality because we in your crib.
Yes, sir. Thanks for coming. I appreciate it.